Coming up on UCF Metro Center Outlook, she was successful as a county commissioner, but now she's the new Orange County mayor. What's ahead for Teresa Jacobs? Next on UCF Metro Center Outlook.
This program is made possible by funding from the UCF Metropolitan Center for Regional Studies, where government leaders, business executives, and academic experts come together to discuss major issues facing the state of Florida.
Hello everyone, welcome to UCF Metro Center Outlook. I'm Diane Trees, Director of the UCF Metropolitan Center for Regional Studies. We are now referring to Teresa Jacobs as Orange County Mayor. But there was a time when her title was simply Concerned Resident. I'll be talking to the Mayor just ahead, but first, Alicia Callanan Mandigo looks back on how Teresa Jacobs' career in politics started.
This stretch of road launched a political career. It's an extension of Apopka Vineland that caught residents, including Teresa Jacobs, by surprise.
She didn't like the heavy hand of government as she saw it, and all of a sudden they were putting a road right through the lot line on her house, Apopka Vineland, I guess it was down there, and she says, oh, wait a minute here. This doesn't seem the way it ought to be, and maybe I ought to get involved.
I'm telling you, that's awesome. I'm totally unsolicited, gang, please. He's not a ringer.
Veteran newsman and political observer Bud Hettinger says from the beginning, Jacobs has displayed the qualities that put her where she is today.
She has an interesting personality. She is tough as nails, but she is, I mean, and believe me, criticism bounces off Teresa Jacobs like bullets off a Superman's chest, okay? I'm not saying she doesn't feel it. I'm not saying it might not hurt sometime, but she's willing to absorb the shots to forward what she believes in.
Tom Endre lives in one of the neighborhoods affected by the road. So you were explaining that there are roughly 8 neighborhoods that were affected by the road, and if we look down in this direction, we can see where the road has split neighborhoods that used to be considered one piece?
Yes, actually this is Palm Cove Estates, and the road, as you see, there's an entrance here up on the left. That's right in the middle of a neighborhood. There used to be a road crossing right there. This road was not here at all. That was just green area.
So what we're looking at right now is what Teresa Jacobs actually accomplished for everybody. Tell us about that.
Well, once it was realized that there was a road going in, and yes, it was going to go through some backyards, there was, Teresa, to my knowledge, she really got into the guts of how Orange County made their roads. And in so doing, said, well, why don't we help beautify it and help the neighborhoods and the associations and all the people that are here. And the bottom line was she negotiated with everybody, and everybody came to the table that would share in it. So in effect, a mill levy was issued, and all the neighborhoods signed on to it.
You were part of this effort. You live in one of these neighborhoods that was affected. At the time, were you getting any indications that this might eventually lead Teresa Jacobs to politics?
I had no idea. No, she was just a very concerned citizen and wanted to get involved because it was, it's her neighbors.
But longtime friend Stina Diuva did see the road battle leading to politics.
I went up to her and said, when are you going to run? When are you going to run for something? That's the type of person that she is, because you see that she has those assets that make her great to serve in public office. So countless times that she would be at a meeting speaking or just talking with people on the phone, getting things organized, that you would say, when are you going to run?
The road was going to happen no matter what. But if you look at it today, it's fairly attractive. It's a beautifully landscaped road, and that's what Teresa Jacobs accomplished. She managed to convince residents in multiple neighborhoods to kick in for beautification.
So what Teresa got Orange County to do is to have community meetings so that you could vet out the process. You could ask people from the developer side as well as the residential side, what is the better fit? what will work so that neighbors won't be complaining that what's happening in their backyard, that they'll understand that roads have to go somewhere. So how can we make it be the best road for us?
The road battle required a lot of homework. Jacobs had to know what she was talking about. The diligence that first surfaced here has carried through.
She does her homework. I interviewed her the first time ever when I had started my afternoon show in 2003. And I said, I want to talk to you about something. It might have been an ethics issue because she was a leader in that. It might have been a development issue or something. I can't even remember right now, but what I do remember, Alicia, is she didn't want to talk to me on the phone. She wanted to come into the studio. She came into the studio and she sat over there and she spread papers out all over the place, more than I have here. She had all of this stuff and all of this that she had prepared, and it's unbelievable. She's very, very detail-oriented.
There's no question the success here was in the details. Alicia Callanan Mandigo for UCF Metro Outlook.
Teresa Jacobs was first elected to the Orange County Commission in the year 2000, then term limited out in 2008. As we begin a new year with a new mayor, a lot is different this time around. The political landscape is different, the economy is certainly different, and the job is different. Orange County Mayor Teresa Jacobs joins me now. Mayor, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Well, thank
Welcome.
you, Diane. Thank you.
You served 2 terms as an Orange County Commissioner. I know there's a lot of pros and cons involved with that, but there's a profound difference with the role of mayor and the role of a commissioner, and you are known for standing your ground. How do you see those attributes as meshing with what you consider to be a successful mayorship?
That's a great question, and it's a question that a lot of people asked me when I was running, and it's an important question, and it's a question I had to ask of myself. We've all heard, and most of us have probably read the book, The Peter Principle. Just because you're good at doing one thing, because you're good as a teacher, doesn't mean you'll make a great administrator. And I had to think about that myself. You know, and I think I was a very effective county commissioner, but the role of county mayor is totally different. As county mayor, you're responsible for this entire organization. As a county commissioner, you're the legislative branch. You can challenge things, you can question things. You have to own up and accept the responsibility of all of Orange County as mayor. Tremendous responsibility. I want to change the dynamics entirely between the board and the mayor's office and the entire organization to make our board a very effective board. We've got great commissioners. I don't know if we have time to talk about them, but I think we've got probably one of the best boards that the electorate of Orange County has ever picked to serve. So I'm very excited about serving with all of them.
Well, you're probably one of the most prepared people for any circumstance that I've been in contact with. Jobs, job growth. We are hovering with probably a 12% unemployment rate, so I know that that's a high priority on everyone's list. What are your plans for job growth?
You know, job growth does start with the private sector. It ends with the private sector, but the public sector, government, plays a role, and we play a role of either helping facilitate job growth or interfering with it. All too often, the process in Orange County serves as more of an interference. When people come in to get building permits, when they come in to get business licenses, if it takes them longer than it needs to, that's longer being unemployed. And we had a lady who was trying to open a seafood restaurant and spent 6 months trying to get her permits to open a seafood restaurant. Very frustrating. And did it have to be that way? And especially in this economy, it doesn't have to be that way. Our employees who are issuing permits have less to issue. We should be able to get that done quicker. We get that lady's business open. It's not just her that's employed. Think of all the people that she's employing. And the people that they're buying fish from. I mean, we are so connected as an economy and as a community. And what affects one or two of us affects so many of us. So we've got to do our part in Orange County to expedite those approval process and bring a culture of customer service, efficiency, work ethic to the table so that when people come in here, we're here to serve. That's what we're supposed to be.
Customer service is an interesting
Yes.
term to use with that.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on tax breaks? I've heard some discussion on tax abatements, financial incentives, property tax incentives. Any thought for using those?
Tax abatement for certain types of industries, I think, makes sense. Now, we have to be very judicious and careful about when we lower taxes on one industry or one business versus another, that we're being fair and consistent in how we do that, and that's very important. But I do think that there's a role for tax abatement. What that means is if you have an existing business and you're thinking about expanding and you run your numbers and you know, I don't know that I'm quite ready to go there yet, because here's all my cost of the building, the equipment that I need, the computers, the desks, all the things that come with hiring 10 or 20 more people and expanding my business. Businesses calculate all of those costs and then make a decision. Well, one of the costs is I'm going to pay extra taxes on building another wing in my building. I'm going to pay extra taxes for every computer that I put, every desk, every chair that goes in, we're paying taxes on. Does it really cost Orange County more for 10 more employees or 20 more employees to work in a company and buy new desks? Not really. So if we can identify those areas where we think job growth is crucial, not just for today and getting people employed today, but long term to create a much more stable, diversified economy. And if that means that we tell that business, you know, for the next 3 years or for the next 5 years, we're not going to charge you extra taxes on those extra computers, those extra desks. If that helps, that equation makes sense, that's a small price for the taxpayers of Orange County for a long-term benefit of having a much more diversified economy.
I know you have a series of job summits underway for the first 90 days when you're in office. How are those proceeding?
They're great. We're focusing on different sectors of Orange County, different geographic areas, but also different industries. I was so excited during the campaign to hear about people that were wanting to open clean tech companies, biofuels, renewable energy. You know, what if we could become the hub for renewable energy in the state of Florida and throughout the country? That's an area that grants us the kind of independence that we need in terms of energy, which is so crucial, but it also gives us a great opportunity for job growth that we know is going to be here for the long haul. We know we're always going to need energy. So there are ideas like that people were bringing to me, and that's why we're focusing one on clean tech itself.
I saw that for the end of April. I signed up for that one already.
Great, yeah, and maybe that takes place more in West Orange County. Maybe that takes place throughout. We've got a solar plant that between here and Brevard County, so a lot of exciting things that people think of campaigns as an opportunity to go out there and convince people to vote for you. Okay, that's the bottom line. But really, there's so much more that goes on in a campaign. It's a great educational opportunity. If you take advantage of it when you're running, you learn about the great resources that we have. So we're going to use those summits to have people bring to us the ideas for where could we be competitive in jobs. I've got some ideas about some of the ones we just discussed, but there are others I haven't even thought of. And that's what we're going to ask people to help us figure out. What kind of business are you trying to open, and where do you see the trends in your industry? And then what are the barriers?
Right. And I saw that. I thought that was very interesting, the way you had spaced them out and the topics around, so they were different than a regular traditional job summit that you might think of.
Right. But the economic job summits are really more about diversifying our economy, looking for those opportunities where we really want to market and champion an industry. And that's where we'll look at tax abatement. Boy, if this is an area we think we can excel at, and if we've got some barriers, either regulatory barriers, state barriers, the new governor is working with us on this. He's assigned a liaison to the summit, so that if we have problems that we encounter with the state, we've got a partner there.
You mentioned creating a sustainable economy. With the housing market the way it is, very difficult task. You were an investment banker. Any thoughts on how we might ameliorate some of this situation, or how do you envision the housing crisis coming to terms?
You know, one of the reasons the housing crisis is so important here in Central Florida is that our economy was not diversified the way it needs to be. We had an economy perched on what we called a three-legged stool: tourism, which is sustainable over the long haul. We have excelled in tourism. Hopefully we always will be king of tourism. Tourism has cycles, but tourism is here to stay. It's something that we can count on. We've had agriculture as a major portion of our economy. It's been dwindling over time. Hopefully it's always a part of our economy. It's a crucial part of our sustainability as a country to be able to grow some of our own food product. But the other major part of our economy has been the construction industry. Housing, commercial construction, everything related to construction. That's not just people that build, that's people that design, those are the attorneys.
Ripple effect all the way
Huge
down, right.
portion of our economy. So when you look at the housing crisis and you realize that so much of Central Florida's economy, Orange County's economy, was dependent upon that, we've been hit harder than a lot of other places. Right. And that's been our goal over the last 10 years. In the 8 years I was in office, Mayor Crotty made that a primary focus of his administration. We're going to continue that, is to diversify our economy. And we've done some phenomenal things with that. The medical city, modeling and simulation. We are really beginning to pick up speed in creating a new identity for what Orange County's economy is all about and what it's like to live and work here. But we still have a lot of room for improvement.
Well, and there are things that are not under your control. One of them is you do not supervise education. Florida is ranked very low nationally in a percentage of high school graduates, and that's a key measurement in quality of education, or perceived to be. How do you reconcile trying to attract higher paying jobs when we have a high dropout rate from our high schools?
That's crucial. When companies are looking at where do they want to move, there are several factors. Most people are looking at, well, where do I want to live? Because I don't want to work where I don't want to live. And part of where do I want to live, where do I want to raise my children? And if I have to find private schools, then that's a cost equation that goes into a business locating. Boy, how many of my employees are going to be able to afford private schools? So raising up our education system is extremely important from an economic standpoint, but it's more important from a personal standpoint. Giving every child in Orange County an opportunity to have a good education, a good career, a positive self-image makes all the difference in the world in what kind of a community we're going to become. And with 4 children of my own, all of them in public education, there's no subject more important to me than our kids and their education. My role as a mayor, similar to my role as a county commissioner, is to support the education system in every way that I can. And I championed a charter amendment dealing with school overcrowding to make sure that as we build communities, because that's kind of our role in county government versus the school board, is to plan and build and permit neighborhoods and communities. As we do that, the schools that serve those communities have to be the first building block that goes in. And if we don't provide the space, the money for that school, then we're failing. And we've changed that here in Orange County, and we are ahead of any county in the state of Florida in that regard. And I'm very proud of that, and very proud of the citizens of Orange County for supporting that charter amendment.
Another priority that you've talked about in your campaign is bolstering transportation funding. With the state legislature and the current political climate focusing on cutting taxes, how might that impact some of the plans you have in mind?
Well, it's very challenging. And to be clear about where the legislature is coming from, we have, and I totally agree with this, we have a state constitutional requirement for a balanced budget, which means that they have to, because the revenues are down. They're looking at a $3.6 billion cut again this year. So when you talk about increasing anything, that's very hard when you're decreasing and when they're trying to preserve education funding. The areas that we desperately need to work on, I think, is some sort of funding source for our mass transit, for links, for Sunrail when it comes in, to give those in our community who don't have the option of driving a car the ability to get to and from their jobs. We mentioned before how heavily dependent we are on tourism. Well, a lot of the jobs that serve tourism are people that are dependent upon Lynx buses. And that's an area that I would like to see support from the legislature to increase the rental car surtax. Ours is one of the lowest in the nation for regions like ours that have a lot of tourists that come to the area. And I don't think a $2 a day rental car surtax is going to deter anybody from coming here to visit Disney or our great theme parks or Universal or our convention center. And if we did that, we would raise tens of millions of dollars, some of which could be poured into links to help our citizens get to and from work.
You've talked about plans to avoid duplication of services, another way to streamline the efficiency of Orange County departments. You've used the terms cooperative consolidation. What does that entail, and what services might be affected with that?
Well, a couple of years ago, I championed a charter amendment for a consolidation study commission to look at whether...
When you were a commissioner?
When I was a commissioner, yes. To look at whether or not we should consolidate parts of our fire rescue service, our sheriff's office with the city of Orlando and our other cities. In retrospect, I don't think having an approach where the county steps in and says, hey, we want to take over is the right approach. And not that that was my intent. I wanted to get people talking. But I think in this tough economic times where cities and the county are all having to look very, very hard at their budgets to make sure that we're spending every dollar, every tax dollar, as wisely and effectively and efficiently as possible, this is a great opportunity to talk to our city partners about, do we have places where we have a fire station around the corner from one of our city's fire stations? Do we need both of them? Is there a way that we could rely on one fire station and have cooperative agreements? We have those in place, but I think that we can do better with that.
Well, you've talked about the possibility with decreasing revenues and looking at streamlining the efficiency of your departments. You mentioned in your campaign a two-part plan, actually, for benchmarking productivity, measuring it, and then also working closely with Orange County Comptroller Marty Haney. Were those still plans that you have?
Absolutely. In fact, we had a meeting just 2 days ago to talk about the benchmarking, what resources are out there and what can we look at in Orange County to see how we're doing, relatively speaking, to other cities and counties. There are some areas where we're probably a little different because of our high tourism population, but we're already starting that research process. And then working with our comptroller, Martha Haney, is crucial. She does a phenomenal job with not just auditing the organization to make sure that we are accounting for the funds that we take in and spending them by proper accounting principles, but we're talking about performance audits, looking at, are we utilizing our employees, our resources as best we can. And we have had a great working relationship, I'd say over the last 12 years, even before I ran for office. Have tremendous respect for her. And so I know we're going to be a team working together to make sure Orange County,
team, yes.
Yeah, a great team.
Yes,
yeah.
I agree. As a commissioner, you implemented a public notification task force. Now, this was an effort to improve how the county was informing citizens of upcoming public hearings that might affect activities in their neighborhoods. Do you have plans now as mayor for more government transparency?
Absolutely. And this is really my first love when it comes to public service. This is how I got involved. I got involved with, and you know the story, a road coming through my neighborhood. And it wasn't the road that ultimately drew me into the process. It was, at that time, not the best process of engaging the public.
I saw in your ceremony, your swearing-in ceremony, you referred to that, actually.
Yes, exactly. And it was when our previous mayor, Linda Chapin, our first mayor, contacted me after the vote to say, is there a way we could do a better job? And I got excited about, I didn't really believe in politicians up until that point. I think I was pretty cynical and probably pretty typical. But I realized that as a citizen, even though I lost and got a road through my neighborhood, if I could come to the table with suggestions, and if county government would actually listen and incorporate those suggestions, then maybe the next neighborhood would have a better experience. And Diane, they did. And neighborhoods started getting excited about working with Orange County. And I got excited about what this community could be like if we all believed that this was our government and it was working for us and with us and we were a part of that team.
Well, I think you suggested a series of community meetings, and you have the history of inviting the feedback. But you were saying that needs vary from area to area.
Absolutely.
Now, I think universal services like police, fire, what did you have in mind with?
Oh, I'll give you a great example. In our neighborhood, when they put the road through the neighborhood, we wanted nice landscaping on that road. It's a Popka Vineland road, and we wanted a beautiful landscape boulevard. Well, that costs us more money. We pay $500,000 more in our taxes, everybody who lives on a Popka Vineland road, that section, to maintain that landscaping. And we had to actually fight to get the county to impose this tax, if you can imagine. So do we want all of our roads to be landscaped and privately and have a private company coming in? Is that what the folks in Bithlo and Christmas want? Is that what people in the rural section of Orange County want? I don't think so. So some of our services shouldn't be one size fits all. Everybody needs to have a safe community to live in. You're right, police and fire protection, Those should be uniform and consistent, and everybody should know that if your house catches on fire, somebody's going to respond. They're going to respond in a timely fashion. But other services, street sweeping. Some people call, why don't we have our street sweep? Well, because you don't live in a city. But if you want your street sweep, well, you know, petition us, and if you want to pay for that service, we can give you that service. But we're not going to tax everybody for a service they don't value or want.
So again, you're looking at options for the different neighborhoods. For that.
Different communities.
Right.
Yeah, we have very different communities. Williamsburg and Hunters Creek, different communities, different wants, different needs.
We've talked about a number of priorities that you're addressing right now. What is your vision for Orange County?
My vision for Orange County has become the most exciting, engaging place to live in our entire country. For people that live here to feel good, to feel connected, to feel like they're a part of a great place to live, where their schools are, they're proud of their schools, where we have clean water, we have clean air, we have parks, we have natural spaces that are preserved, that we know we can go kayaking or airboating on so that the environment is protected. We have a very diversified economy. Our kids, we have wonderful students at UCF. We have so much to be proud of with that university here. It's one of the greatest jewels that Central Florida has. But we have these children that are graduating as young adults with all the potential and all the enthusiasm.
Our children.
Our children. Our children.
Yes.
I want them to stay here. I want them to find the opportunities. I have 4, and I am so blessed. 3 of my 4 are still here, 2 are at UCF.
Excellent.
My oldest is finished at Florida State about 2 years ago and is looking for the opportunity to move back home. This is where he wants to live.
And the environment that you want him to have.
Yeah.
The opportunities and the benefits for a place to grow with
And we're
themselves.
close. We're close. The job opportunities are not here, and that's what we've got to work on. And that's what the job summits are about. And I don't have the answers. And all the experts at EDC and all the experts in Orange County government don't have the answers. The answers lie with the citizens, the business owners, the people of Orange County, and that's why we're inviting everybody to these job summits. I want to know what's wrong. I want to know what's right. I want to know how we can keep what's working and improve what isn't. And I think collectively we can get there.
Mayor, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time today, and I wish you the very best of success.
Thank you, because my success is our success.
I've been talking with Orange County Mayor Teresa Jacobs about her plans and goals for Orange County. That's all we have time for today. I'm Diane Trees. Thanks for joining me. See you next time on UCF Metro Center Outlook.
This program is made possible by funding from the UCF Metropolitan Center for Regional Studies, where government leaders, business executives, and academic experts come together to discuss major issues facing the state of Florida.